from Sarasota? Anybody? All right, shout out to the outlying area. We got a little bit of Tampa, we got a little bit of Manatee County, and I want to say to my peeps who have traveled from Tallahassee with me, and if there are any graduates of Florida State University, shout out to y'all too. Is it okay? Go ahead. I can walk around? Okay, I don't want to blow y'all's eardrums off. My name is Andrew Gillum, and I'm the mayor of Tallahassee, Florida, and I'm exceedingly proud to be a true progressive running in the race to become the next governor of the great state of Florida. I actually believe you can be a progressive, you can say what your values are, you can be consistent with those values, and we can go out there and share our values with other people, and they will still vote for us at the end of the day. That we actually don't have to run Republican light. We don't have to shrink from the things that we believe in, right? We can actually run our values and win. And I'll give you a couple of examples of winning. When I ran for city commission back in 2003, I ran in a seat that was almost 70% white, the voting electorate. Not a lot of young voters voted. In fact, on Florida State's campus, the municipal election prior to mine, only 9 students voted on campus. People wonder what I was doing campaigning on college campuses, and I said students can vote too. And you want to know what we did? We ended up being the least funded candidate in a 7-way race, made it into the runoff, and won that election, making me the youngest person in Tallahassee's history to serve on the Tallahassee City Commission. And in that period of time, I didn't shrink from the things that I believed in, right? We talked openly about criminal justice reform. I created a program sunk in the belief of restorative justice, which means we restore people. We just don't take people down. When they return to our communities, we actually pour into them so that they can make a better way for themselves and a better way for their families, right? To give you an example of the success that we saw there, we introduced a program called Community Connections, which is a restorative justice program for young people who would commit nonviolent first-time offenses, would typically go before a judge and be told how they committed a crime against the inanimate state of Florida. And I say inanimate because they've never touched the state of Florida. They don't know what she smells like. They don't know how the harm that they've done have affected her. So instead, we divert those kids to a restorative justice program where they stand before a group of citizens, the principal, the school teacher, the pastor, maybe the victim's family, and they hear how the actions that they did impacted the community, us. And you want to know something about that program? The recidivism rate for young juvenile nonviolent offenders, 6 months after they have committed their crime, 6 months after, in this state, about 40% of them go on to recidivate. And our program, that same 6 months and that same crime and that same individual, 90% of them never go on to commit, and we defend it over that observation period. It works. It works. One of the things that I also want to see happen, and I was proud to lead it as the mayor of the city of Tallahassee, is in my city, if you are a returning citizen, when you come to apply for a job in my city, we don't ask about your criminal background history unless answering yes to having had one is a disqualifier for a job. If it is not a disqualifier, we're going to measure you on your merit. Can you do the job? Will you make a good employee? Will you bring credit and honor to this organization? Because y'all, you can't say that we're for folks pulling themselves up by the bootstrap and then erect every barrier imaginable to keep them from pulling themselves up, right? So we have to live our values. That has to show up in the system. I've been a strong proponent of education and public, I underscore public education in this state. And to let you know that I'm not just out there throwing proposals out there, earlier this week, we matched our proposal with a plan to pay for how it is that we improve education in this state. And I'm gonna tell you how I believe we do it. Y'all remember when we were all animated by the fact that the president had given away billions of dollars to the wealthiest corporations and individuals in this country? It wasn't that long ago. I know he does a lot to keep us busy and distracted. But not so long ago, we saw a complete and total reshift in wealth in this country at the hands of the president and the majority Republican Party in the House and in the Senate. So what that meant for top corporations in the state of Florida, the top 3% of corporations in the state of Florida, top 3% walked away with $6.3 billion. That's what they're going to get as a result of the Trump tax scam, right? And so what we have proposed is that we take less than 1/5 of that and put that money in Florida education to pay teachers a $50,000 starting salary. That's right. Because teaching, regardless of what Speaker Richard Corcoran says about teachers, and regardless of what the state of Florida says about our schools being failure factories, teaching is an honorable profession. And we ought to pay teachers what they are worth for doing what I consider the most difficult work that exists on earth. They're responsible for the shaping, the molding, the cultivating, the inspiring of our most precious gifts, our children. And so we shouldn't be demeaning them. We should reward them by, one, paying them what they're worth, giving them the kind of support that they need, but most importantly, not taking public money and putting it in for-profit private institutions, right? And so, with the $1 billion that we are going to generate by increasing the corporate tax rate here in the state of Florida, right? Because all we said is we want to be competitive with the states around us. Why is it that Alabama and Georgia have a higher corporate tax rate than the state of Florida, the third largest in all of America? Right? We're not talking about redistribution of wealth, we're talking about everybody paying their fair share. If you have to pay your fair share through sales tax, if you got to pay your fair share through ad valorem taxes, then they got to be able to pay their fair share too. And it shouldn't be too much to ask that of their $6.2 billion giveaway, that $1 billion of that go into paying teacher salaries, that a portion of that go into building public school infrastructure so that the school doors and the buildings and the windows aren't crumbling around our kids. That a portion of that go toward expanding high quality early childhood education. Why? Because early is where it's at. Early is where it's at. 90% of brain development, and I'm looking at this little one, and I'm thinking about my 3 little ones, all age 3 and under. And I watch them as sponges. Yes, my wife is a shero. Alright, yes. Shout out to Jay. But I watch them, y'all, and they're literally sponges. In our state, roughly 40% of kids are showing up in kindergarten not ready to learn. That same percentage by the time they get to 3rd grade are not on grade level reading. And we wonder why Johnny is distracting in the back of the classroom. He literally has no concept of what's being spoken about in the classroom. And it started before he got to the 3rd grade. And it started before she got to kindergarten. So that's why we have to make sure that we give all of our kids a running start, and that begins with access to high quality childhood education. And then finally, y'all, as part of what we're going to invest in, is we're going to make sure that for our kids who are not on a college-bound track, that we reinstitute apprenticeships, right? Shop, mechanical, electrical, technical skills training in our high schools. Because for our kids who are not on the college-bound track, and by the way, college worked for me. I don't have anything against that. I want every kid, anybody who has an aspiration of getting there, we ought to make it possible for them to get there and to graduate without being under a mountain of debt. We should make that possible in the state of Florida. But what we should also make possible here in the state of Florida is that for our kids who may be talented in other ways, that we don't hamstring them to a college-bound track that they're not interested in, that they won't graduate from, but that we give them the skills that they need to walk into the jobs that will allow them to make a good wage for themselves, for their families, and build a career, right? We should be able to do that. We're a mature society. We should be able to do that. I've talked extensively about my desire to see this state and the people who lead it in touch with the everyday concerns of folks like you and me. The reason why I feel uniquely qualified for this position is not only because I've served 15 years in public policy, standing firm from everything from environmental justice to creating the green economy, to saying that I acknowledge and recognize science and am not a science denier, right? But I believe that there's an economy in dealing with the environmental crisis that is confronting Florida, threatening people and property, threatening our waterways, our seaways. And not to mention our energy consumption. So the very same week that Donald Trump was pulling out of the Paris Accord, I'm pleased that I was breaking ground on a 120-acre solar farm that would triple the amount of solar energy that we produce in our state. Right? But we can do better than that. We can do better than that. But y'all, we need a governor who understands not only what it means to try to survive in the state of Florida, but to thrive in the state of Florida. I know about that. I know a little bit about that. Not because I've read it somewhere, but because I lived it. It is my story, right? I grew up in Miami-Dade, Florida, to my mother who was a school bus driver and my daddy who was a construction worker. I'm one of 7 kids, number 5 of 7. I know that's a lot. We don't do that anymore. My mother's one of 16, so we just, that was work for us.
Sorry.
But the truth is that my parents, neither of them graduated from high school. My siblings, I'm number 5, but I'm the first to graduate from high school and the first to go on to college. I know what it means. I know what it means to see intergenerational poverty interrupted by having the opportunity to learn a good quality public education, right? And we ought to be willing to make that dream possible for anybody, no matter what side of track you live on, no matter what your mama or your daddy did, we all ought to have that same opportunity. And so when I see the all-out war and assault on our education system and our teaching professionals and the underfunding of our system, it pulls at me because I recognize that means a little boy or a little girl won't get the same opportunity that I did. And that's what this is about, opportunity. Opportunity to learn, opportunity to earn, opportunity to grow and make the most of yourself. If you're willing to straighten your back and square your shoulders and stiffen your spine to the task, you should be able to accomplish whatever you set your mind to. And all of us know that dream is slipping increasingly away from the people in this state, but not just this state, all over the country. So it makes it absolutely necessary that we end this 20 years of Republican control in the state of Florida, which has been an attack on everything that we believe in. Everything that we believe in. So as I conclude, what I want you to know about me, aside from the fact that I'm the son of Francis and Charles and the daddy to Davis and Jackson and Caroline and the husband to R.J. Gillum, who is a woman who should be making her own decisions around her own reproductive health, just as every other woman should. What I also want you to know about me is I don't back down from a fight. I want you to know that when the gun lobby came after me because I refused to repeal an ordinance which said you cannot shoot guns in a city park where our kids play and our families picnic, they took me to court for 2 years, in and out of courts, on my own dime and on the altruism and the gifts of the people who were willing to represent me. The law in this state allowed them to sue me. And I risk being removed from office at the discretion of the governor because the law in this state allows that when you stand up to the gun lobby. Well, the good news, y'all, is we beat them in the circuit court, we beat them in the appellate court, and we wanted to see them in the Supreme Court. Just last week, the Speaker of the Florida House decided that he wanted to send a letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security requesting that they investigate me and Mayor Rick Kreisman because we are sanctuary cities. That's what the Speaker of the House did. A letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security as if I am some threat to the homeland. Now what I said in response to that is we deserve comprehensive immigration reform in this country for the 20 million folks living in the shadows. And in my city, we are a welcoming city, but we're also a city of laws, which means if you break the law in the city of Tallahassee and in Leon County, you will pay the piper for whatever it is that the law allows for penalty. But what we don't do in my city is we don't go around asking people because they're brown or they may talk a different language for their papers. We don't criminalize you based on your personhood, right? And as I have said to my Republican colleagues in the Florida legislature, including the Speaker of the House, if you're serious about immigration reform, then I would dare you to create a system where you find any business in the state of Florida who takes illegal use of the labor of undocumented people and don't pay them fair wages. $15,000 every offense. They won't do that. They won't do that. They won't do that, y'all, because they're actually not serious about addressing that problem. They're more interested in dividing and maligning and targeting and red herring folks because of the way they look or the language that they may speak. All I have to say, y'all, is it is time out for that, right? It's time for us to stand up and say that we matter because we are the majority. Y'all are the majority. In this state, there are more of us than there are of them. There are more of us who want to see us connected, who want to see opportunity created for all of us. More than the ones who want to see us divided and suppressed and under their heel. So I'm going to end here. The only way I can do this is with your help. We can't run this race, we can't win this race on good ideas alone. I feel confident in my ability to move around this state and to compete. I'm prepared to debate and compete with anybody, right? Because my mama told me that the only thing in life I ever need is a chance, right? And if given that chance, I'm going to work every single day, not only to make my family proud, but to make you all proud for standing with us as we try to turn this state back into a state that represents the regular people of Florida again. I don't believe that you should have to have a famous last name or to be able to stroke your own check to become governor of the state of Florida. I believe that you can work hard, that you can play by the rules, and that you can compete off the value and the strength of your ideas, right? And if you give me that shot, folks, if you work with us, if you organize with us, if you go online and you give your $5 and your $10 contribution, I have every belief that we can move around this state and convince and compel people to believe in our state and our state leadership again. $27 are we up to? Well, this is what we've been asking for. We want you to try and go on and do $20.18 to represent the revolution coming to Florida in 2018. Right? $20.18. If you have the ability to do more, God knows I want you to do more. But at the very least, I need you to sow a little bit of seed that says we're with you, that we're willing to organize with you, that we're willing to talk to some people with you, that we're willing to get out there and try to reinstill in the people who have lost faith and lost hope in this system, that they can believe again. Because they will have a champion, not just somebody who tacitly agrees, but a champion on the causes and the issues that matter to them. When I was a kid growing up in Miami, because my mother and father would have to get up so early to go to work, they would load us all into one car and then drive us over to my grandmama's house and my granddaddy's house, where they would let us sleep a little bit longer before they would get us ready and out of the door for the day. And my grandmother had two rituals that she would do before she let us get out the door. One, because she was a praying woman, she would take her bottle of praying oil and she would build a cross on our forehead every day. It was her way of sending us out into the world with an anointing that no harm would come our way. And the second thing she would do, and it's become part of the slogan of our campaign, is she'd say, boy, go to school, mind your teachers, get your lesson, and bring that education home. She said, bring it home for your little brother and your little sister who don't know what it is yet, bring it home. Bring it home for that little boy down the street that you play with, God knows where he gonna end up. And she meant that. Bring it home. She said, bring it home for your mama and your daddy who get up every single day going to go slave on somebody else's job in order to keep a roof over your head and clothes on your back and food on the table. Bring it home. Now I have to admit that I didn't know what my grandmother was trying to communicate in that moment. I would only come to learn later that what she was trying to tell me is that it wasn't just about me. That it wasn't even just about my direct relatives. It was even about the boy down the street who she didn't even like. Right? It was about all of us. There was a belief in our family and in our community and the collective. That if I went far in life, we would all go far in life. That if I did good, we would all do good. We've lost the sense of the collective. We lost the sense of the collective. But I honestly believe that we can reinfuse the belief system and the value system of the collective, that when we pay people a livable wage and they can take care of themselves and their families without having to to work 2 and 3 jobs, that's part of the collective. When we expand Medicaid for 1.5 million of the most medically needy people in this state so that they can get life-saving medicine, that is a part of the collective. If we build an economy in this state to address the fact that 47% of working people in the state of Florida get up every day to go out and work and can't earn enough to take care of themselves and their families. When we build an economy that helps it work for them, that's part of the collective. When we educate our kids and make sure that we have a public education system that provides a high-quality education experience and the opportunity to learn for all of our kids, that whether they graduate and go from a job into a career or a job into college, that our ability and desire to guarantee that promise for them is about the collective. So in this election, it is going to be our job to remind not only Floridians who we are and what we stand for, we're going to remind the rest of the United States of what it means to be an American again, to be part of the collective. That's our job. And I believe we can do it. Y'all think we can do it? Is there any si se puede out there? Si se puede? Y'all, we can do this thing, but as I said, I cannot do it alone. My name is Andrew Gillum, and I want to be your next governor. Thank you, and God bless.